Hey monsters, what's up? It is time for a special interview here on the Deep Dish with me, Nikki Porter. And joining me this afternoon is indie singer-songwriter Fig. So let us welcome her to the show. Hey Fig.
Hi.
Oh my goodness. Wait, so where are you calling from right now?
I'm currently in LA, in Los Angeles.
LA. Okay, so is that -4 opposite time of the day?
Currently it's 8:44 p.m.
8:44. Okay, got it. But anyway, so still sort of early. Like what time do you usually go to sleep though?
Usually like 11:30.
Okay, so we're good. We're
Yeah, so not
good.
like wanting to sleep, which is okay.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for taking the time to speak with me this afternoon here, at least in the Philippines. And I'm curious that your stage name is Fig, Fig, and your real name though is Faye.
Yeah.
So, is there a story behind the name and why you decided to be called Fig?
Honestly, when I wanted to do music, I was like, I don't want to have my name. And then I chose Fig because I like the name. And then I was brainstorming. I already chose it. And I was like, my brother was like, you gotta like say why you chose it. And then I was like, okay. And then he was like, why don't you just say Fig means Faye is good? Which is like so silly. But I was like, okay, that does make sense. So I just kind of stuck with it. And that's why I guess I call myself Fig.
All right. So Faye is good. That's what it's
Yes.
supposedly says.
Yes.
Honestly, I thought I was like, does she have it? Does she really like the fruit? Is that why or something? But in any case, there we go. At least your brother kind of came up with sort of a
Yes.
an origin story for for the name itself.
Exactly.
All right. So I read somewhere though that you really got into lo-fi in high school, and when I was listening to your album earlier, it was kind of like, yeah, like how like the background, it does sound very lo-fi, very chill for most of them at least. And then so you got into it in high school, and it sort of rewired your brain when you found out that someone on Instagram was singing over lo-fi beats, because usually when we see it like on YouTube it's just the beats, right?
Yes.
So tell us how that like maybe inspired you to start your music career or your creative career.
Yeah, I was super into lo-fi beats in high school. And then yes, exactly. I saw this girl just sing over these lo-fi beats on Instagram, and it was just like a dark screen, and she was singing over them, and I was like, whoa, this is like so cool. So then I wanted to try do it myself. So what I did was I would try to do the same thing and sing like two lines, like max, or like three lines, trying to make my own lyrics and melodies over lo-fi beats. And then on Snapchat, I would do the exact same thing and like have a dark background and then send them to like one of my best friends and be
Mhm.
like, is this good? Is this good? And I'll just like save a bunch of them. And then as I kept doing it, I was like, wait, I have like three sentences. Why don't I try like whole verse? And then I was like a verse and a chorus, and just like kept going longer and longer. And then when I moved to New York for college, and then I was just like, why don't I just try making whole songs? And
Mhm.
it just kind of kept going. And then I was able to work with like lo-fi producers, and that's why I like definitely got into music through like the lo-fi world. And then creatively, I also started like just doing little skits or video things with the music and started pairing them, and it just kind of started evolving. So yeah, that's how I kind of got my start on because of lo-fi study beats.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I was actually going to ask you next. Like, did you find lo-fi because there was a time when like people really did look for lo-fi on YouTube just so they could focus on doing your homework, whatever it was, schoolwork that they had to do. Was that the same for you?
Yeah, I definitely, even now, always like listen to lo-fi, or like
Hmm.
I'm listening to currently like Animal Crossing jazz beats when I do my work. But in high school, definitely I would use it to study. And then there's also this channel called like Bootleg Boy, where it was just like really sad, like some lo-fi music's like kind of like has like a little beat, like a little upbeat to it, but this one's just like very, very sad. And I was like, whoa, I kind of want to be on this channel one day. And yeah, I would listen to that and listen to it just like on like going to school or just like on the train. And yeah, I was listening to it a bunch in high school.
That's awesome. And like, well, lo-fi, it's really just so perfect for, trying to gain your focus when it's like, for school, homework, those kinds of things. And for you, like, what did lo-fi music make you feel? Like, how does it make you feel when you listen to it?
I think very at peace and relaxed, and especially the ones that I like to listen to where I got inspired was that they would just like sample a voice that was like
Mhm.
saying something like very sad or like very like um just relatable, and they would pitch it up super high, which made it even more emotional. Which then I would they would sing a bit, "Yeah, I get it." Like in high school, I was like, "Oh my god, I feel you too." And I was like listening to it, and I think it like provided me comfort and also relatability. When it was just a sad song, and I was like, "Wait, I can also just be sad and listening to this." So I think it provided me just a lot of comfort in just feeling down when I needed to be. Uh, so yeah, it was important. Just like it was very comforting.
It was very comforting. Yeah, I can agree with that. And what's also really interesting about you is that when we tried to talk about this off air, um, I'm wondering like if this is the same way that you would have to describe yourself, like if you meet people in person, like they ask you where you're from, because you are. I've seen like maybe 3, 4 articles about you saying like Malaysian, Singapore, Filipino raised or something. Like it was just like I'm not like can we set the record straight with
Yes.
Fig right now? So what is your background?
Okay. So my passport and my nationality is Malaysian, and
Mhm,
then I was born in the Philippines, but then
mhm,
I've never lived in Malaysia, so I consider Singapore home because I've lived there most of my life. I lived there for
mhm.
6 years, which is not that much. I lived there for like the most like profound moments of my life. I lived there like
Okay.
in grade 1 and 2 for 2 years, and then I left. And then I
Mhm,
was there for parts of middle school, and then I left. And then I lived there at the end of my like high school years, which are definitely like the most important parts of my life. So it was like definitely the most meaningful. And my parents live there now, but I have moved, like I've lived in China and I've lived in Germany as well, but
mhm.
that is setting the record straight, that is my background.
So I'm guessing you've had to repeat this whole spiel like whenever people would ask you.
Yes,
Like
sometimes I'm like, "Do you want the short story or do you want the long story?" And
you should
then
have a card ready next time.
just the whole paragraph, the whole
Yeah,
timeline.
yeah. just to quickly get that out of the way. But yeah, so you mentioned that you did move to New York City. Right now, you're in LA. Is this where you're based now, or is it New York?
New York. I just did my first headline show in New York yesterday, and then we're doing our second one in LA in like 2 days. So then we
Okay.
just arrived and we're here for like 2 days.
Oh, okay. All right. So you're just there for the tour. And you mentioned, of course, moving to, like, born in the Philippines, but you also lived in Singapore for most of your life, to Shanghai, to Frankfurt as well. So I'm kind of wondering, like, I read somewhere that you even changed your school like 10 times, or you went to 10
Yes.
different schools.
Yeah.
Um, has that influenced, like, the way that you perceive life in some way?
I think, yeah, definitely. I think definitely there's pros and cons to moving so many times.
Sure,
I
yeah.
think a con of it would definitely be like the difficulty of like long lasting relationships and friendships, and just be
Hmm.
like I would make a friend and be like, oh, I'm probably actually going to leave in 2 years. So then like kind of just like the yeah, just like the sudden change, especially as a child, and not having like a place, a proper place to go home at the time, I was, I think, very confusing.
Sure.
But I think definitely a pro was just having so many different experiences and cultures and meeting people. And I think definitely being able to grow up faster because I just had to adapt in many
Mm,
situations, which I think definitely as I'm older, I've appreciated. And also
mhm.
just like also the love of traveling and doing that. But I think it definitely has influenced me today, but also appreciating like friendships more because as I'm now in a place longer, I definitely appreciate things now when knowing that I'm not going to move in a year. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure because it's like maybe it allowed you to become more open when it comes to like welcoming new people from different cultures, different countries as
Yes.
well. Like what you said, like it was easier for you to adapt because being exposed to like moving so constantly when you were younger.
Yeah.
Um, and so also um, so now you're based in NYC and you moved there because of school. And so you studied in the new school, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken. And this was when you really invested your time into like taking it seriously actually in music.
Yes.
So how was that like? I saw somewhere that you had to write 5 songs in a week. Like just
Yeah.
one of those examples.
When I was at in university, I actually didn't study music at the time, but we were able to take a bunch of classes, and then I was like, wait, there's
Mm,
this songwriting class, and I think because I only wrote 2 verses at the time with lo-fi, I was like, I want to challenge myself.
mm.
So the professor would be it was so funny. The professor, he wrote Gary, like there's a SpongeBob song called Gary Come Home, and he wrote that song, which is
He's
so
the one who wrote that
yeah.
song.
He was my professor, and it was really cool because I think especially in a class setting, it's deadlines and you have to do homework.
Sure,
So
yeah.
one assignment would be, yeah, write 5 songs in a week, which was very challenging at the time because I only wrote
Yeah.
like 2 verses in a month or 2 verses in 3 weeks. So
Mhm.
I think it was just a great way to both write a bunch of music, but also be okay in writing bad songs and
Mm.
not just overthinking so much and just being like, okay, if I have to write 5 songs, 3 out of the 5 could be bad. One of them could be okay, but one of them could actually be good. And just, yeah, just not pressuring myself so much. And I think it was a really fun and having the restriction of, or not restriction, but like it being in a classroom setting, being like, oh, if you don't do this, you may fail. It like
Mhm.
was like, okay, I actually need to do this rather than just like procrastinating sometimes. So yeah, it was really doing it in school was, I think, a way for me to really push myself and just realize that I wanted to actually pursue it.
Mm. And so, did you have to like perform a song eventually, or songs, depending on how often you had to do this in class, as like a final or like a special project or something?
Yeah, I think in that class we had to the scary thing was definitely we had to record it could be just like a voice memo, but we had to record it and share it
Mm.
with
Okay.
like 15 kids, which I think especially
Oh
in
my
school was
gosh.
very nerve-wracking because it's not just a teacher,
Yeah.
and especially yeah, it was very nerve-wracking and them being like saying things and just like saying their thoughts and being like, oh my god, I like spent so long on this and this could be vulnerable, but now these like 15 other kids are like listening to my vulnerability or just my lack of vulnerability and like whatever I'm writing. So yeah, we had to do something like that in our final, which was cool because it just like pushed me to do something that I wasn't very comfortable with.
Yeah, and I'm sure that helped propel you even further into your musical career because now we get to talk about your second album that you've released, and it's called Fits. And I did, like I mentioned earlier, I did listen to it. It's very nice and chill to listen to, by the way, Monsters,
Thank
if you
you.
guys are listening. It's really, yeah, because I was just like, yeah, I could get with this. Like, it's just like it's something that even if it had lyrics, I would still probably listen to it while I was like reading a book. Like it
Mm,
was just very vibey in that way that it makes you want to read while there's lyrics also in the background,
yes.
which I love. And so for this one, like, what are the recurring themes of, like, you have 8 tracks in it? So what are the recurring themes in there?
Yeah. So with fits, so a thing about me is that I usually I don't like to write a bunch. I used to not like to write love songs or things of that nature, but this time I just decided to, even though I just decided to push myself in writing it, and the project itself, it's like in two halves where it talks about the beginnings, the like nice beginnings of friendships or relationships, and then the sad or even happy endings of friendships or relationships. And it was just the project in two parts is about the beginnings of that and the joys of having a new friend or having a new relationship, and then sometimes the ending that just had to be, and appreciating yourself, or just a sad ending. So I think just like the motion and going through friendships and relationships, and sometimes the inevitable endings that happen, and sometimes mourning them, but also sometimes appreciating the end of it. So I think this project definitely went through that, which I haven't really tried or writing about before. So it's kind of
Yeah.
refreshing and also just like satisfying to write about. So yeah.
Yeah. And so the reason why you called it fits was that you were going through, was it emotional fits? Was it like,
Yeah, I
yeah.
wanted to experience. So also in the album art, I'm like holding this really large pencil and like
Mhm.
me throwing a
Yes.
fit.
Yeah.
And throughout the rollout of the project, I had different singles, and each cover art was a large object. Like the song I have called "The Goo," which is a love song, it was a large bouquet of flowers. Or in an opposite day, I had this large basketball, and it was kind of about how I used the idea of large objects to kind of say how inside, when we are trying to get over things or just try to feel things, we sometimes do things that feel like very out of body or to ourselves. And
Mm.
sometimes internally we exaggerate things, and the pencil is kind of like eternally when I want to be angry or like just express frustration. I personally want to do that in my head of throwing a fit, but I don't really, maybe I won't do that on the outside, but internally I'm just like holding the largest pencil ever and imagine me going crazy and just
Mm.
being very frustrated. So it's kind of like
Okay.
internally how, or also externally how we just do things that are like very crazy to feel again, but also internally just the idea of being able to have a large object like that, and express that inside when it's not necessarily how I feel, how I express it on the outside.
Gotcha. And it's well, it's really interesting. Like, you kind of get like what the songs are about also, like, especially with that headliner of fits as well, like with how you explained it. And in the press release, you also said something about how um like making this album like allowed you to examine the dynamics of forming and ending relationships or friendships, focusing on the mental frustrations involved and how these experiences contribute to self-discovery. And so my show is called The Deep Dish, so we're going to get a little deep just for now, just for this question. So the question is, which do you think is a more painful breakup, with a partner or with a best friend?
Best friend. Best friend.
Oh, yeah. Tell us more. Say more.
I think personally, yeah, I think for me it was a best friend. There's a song in there in the project called Boyfriend, which
Mhm.
people may think it's about a relationship, but actually that song is about my breakup with my best friend
No.
that I had, and about kind of how she was never, she basically, yeah, like broke up with me by like ghosting me. And like in my head, the why the song's called Boyfriend is that at the time in my head I just never knew what was happening, where I would imagine like she is telling her boyfriend like all these things that are happening but
Yeah.
never telling me. So that's like kind of why the song was like that. But definitely for me, I think a best friend is someone that is so special, especially a long time one. And personally, because I moved a lot, having like a best friend was like very difficult. So then when I
Mm,
finally got one, like I appreciated so much and it was so special to me. And then when it went away, it was like very, very like hard to get over.
sure.
But yeah, for me, best friend breakup is worse than a relationship breakup.
For sure. Like it's I because like best friends, they know you for so long and like they're like your trusted confidant and everything.
Yes.
So to lose that in your life, that's heartbreaking. I mean,
Yes.
yes, breakups with a boyfriend or girlfriend can be heartbreaking too, but then like this person was a constant before the boyfriend or girlfriend came
Exactly.
in. So,
Yes.
I felt that. And so, also, like when you were writing the second album, I read that you were more open to express your ideas, whether they were good or otherwise, to your peers. So this was compared. This was as compared to how you used to be more cautious and being collaborative until it felt right, quote unquote. So what made you hesitant before to share your ideas um, before knowing it felt right, and what did that felt right feel like for you?
Yeah. I think, especially for me, the people that you work with, collaborators, is it's like a friendship and a relationship where also I wasn't very confident in myself when writing. I
Mm.
think when the previous stuff, and also especially as I was maybe not as familiar, not as comfortable with certain collaborators, I'd be like, oh no, like this may not be good, and they may like judge me, and they may now think I'm bad and not want to work with me. So I'd feel very self-conscious in wanting to share things. But I think as I just grew closer to people, and also just I think got out of my shell more, now if it's bad, I just be like, okay, let me try it. Let me hear it out loud rather than it staying in my head. And if it's bad, okay, we'll just move it aside, try something new. But at least it's not cluttered in my head, because I think it used to be when I was only doing something which just felt right, which I think it's just like a feeling of me feeling confident about it. But I would then start running into a roadblock and then not even just writing anything at that point. So I think just like letting it out really just felt very relieving. And I could just feel comfortable being like, okay, I at least I did try everything, rather than keeping everything inside.
Yeah, well, I love that for you. You're coming into an evolution, like in each
Yes.
album, I guess.
Yes.
Well, we are nearing the end of the interview, but I did want to say something that's outside of your musical sphere. Because in 2022, you launched Cobb Stand, and this was to spotlight Asian American and Pacific Islander artists. So, what led you to organize that, I'm going to say, collective?
Yeah, I did Cobstan. It definitely connected to how I moved a lot as a kid, and it was very difficult to find community or just find friends. And I really don't I've been to maybe, I'm 24 and I've been to maybe 5 parties, and I really don't. It just is very intimidating to me. But I think with Cobston, I wanted to create a space where people just would feel comfortable. I also love doing things by myself, and I wanted to create a space where people can feel comfortable going to by themselves, which is a very scary thing. But I think I wanted to create a space that allowed and just encourage people to do that. And also, at the time when I moved to New York, I appreciated so many artists that I wanted to connect with. And then through Collabson, I invited them, and it helps create a community of both artists, but also just shine a spotlight for them to showcase their work. And other than music, I also started doing food events and also trivia nights, and it just created like a really sweet community of people. And it was awesome because I'd see people come by themselves, like 80% of people come by themselves, and at the end they would exchange socials with people that they met, and it was like very, very sweet. So it's definitely a very big passion project of mine, and it was something that I wish I had when I was younger. So yeah.
Yeah, and you're making it happen for people who need community, and it's just really heartwarming to know that you are investing time in that outside of your musical career. I mean, they are in some way tethered, but then it's just really nice for you to also sort of give back in some way to like
Yes.
how to create that community where artists feel safe and collaborative and welcome.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
So we love to see it, and we love to see more of it. Fig, thank you so much for taking the time once again here on the Deep Dish. But also, before we go ahead and plug the new album Fits to all the monsters who are listening. Go for it.
Yes. All the monsters out here. I just released my new project, Fits, and you should listen to it if you like indie pop, indie R&B, if you like love songs, but also songs just about going on solo dates and doing things by yourself. So yeah, I think you'll like it, and you should definitely take a listen. And my socials are Figwoop, FIGWOOP, if you want to check me out. So yeah.
All right, there we go. Thank you so much, Fig, once again. And for all you monsters, keep it locked. We'll go back to more music. And yeah, enjoy more of the music only here on The Monster. Bye.
Monster exclusive interview only on Manila's hottest Monster RX 93.1.